Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Cold Blood Creations here on YouTube. And today Anna is joining with me again.
Hey y'all, today we're going to be answering more of y'all's YouTube comments.
So I want to go ahead, open up YouTube here. We're going to check out some of the comments you guys have left us through the week and reply to them. So we're going to start this out with a young lady. Planting with Nat. Must be a gardening channel. Planting with Nat. So she says, I have a question. Can you feed superworms to a baby dragon?
Well, I mean, the simple answer is yes, but we've mentioned the importance of sizing for a bearded dragon, especially at a young age. So just make sure that the size, the length in between their eyes should be the same size as the food that you're giving them. So if you're feeding a baby dragon adult superworms, obviously that's not going to work. So just make sure that you have access to getting baby superworms, and then you can certainly feed them to a baby dragon.
And you know, that's easier said than done. Unless things have changed, I haven't really shopped around for superworms lately, but unless things have changed, you can only really buy adult superworms, I think. I've never seen anybody sell tiny superworms.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or you can breed your own superworms, which I know is kind of tedious, but some people may be into it.
I mean, if you can find baby mealworm or baby superworms, then by all means, yes, you can use them to feed, but again, I think the difficulty is just going to be simply locating superworms small enough to do that. So anyway, planning with Nat, we hope we answered that question sufficiently. And so anyway, thank you for asking it. We're going to drop down here. This is Jimmy Hampson. Jimmy Hampson says, my beardie is around a year old and he stopped eating about a week ago. Is this normal? I wouldn't say it's abnormal.
There's a few ways we could answer this question. One way would just be, depending on where you live, if it's getting colder, like usually this is a problem during the winter time, but if your dragon just all of a sudden stops eating, starts hiding in the enclosure, doesn't come underneath this basking light, then that usually means that they're ready to hibernate. So there's that issue, but then there's also the issue that bearded dragons in the wild are opportunistic feeders, and I think sometimes in captivity we forget about that, and so we think that we need to constantly keep food in their enclosures all the time, give them lots of options every hour of the day, but it's not really natural. It's not what happens out in the wild. They have to go search and hunt for their food, and some days they might have plenty, and some days they might have very little to almost nothing. Yeah. So I think it's also important to let your dragons go a day or two without food. A week, let them fast, because it is normal in the wild, and we try to replicate what happens in the wild in captivity. So
and it's healthy, even from a human perspective, to every now and then just let your system clean out, let your complete digestive system clean out. There's something that's gained a lot of popularity recently. It's the intermittent
fasting.
Yeah,
we as a family do it too.
Yeah, so it's healthy, and because your body was not designed to be constantly digesting food. Bearded dragons in captivity probably eat a lot more than their wild counterparts. In fact, I know they do, because when you see bearded dragons in the wild, or any reptile for that matter, they don't look like the stuffed sausages that you see in captivity, because we're giving these animals a lot more food than they would ever get for themselves. They're not going to get nice cut up salads, and they're not going to have, the little calcium fairy flying around sprinkling calcium powder on every insect they eat.
Yeah, they just have to get what's available to them.
Yeah. So we're feeding them a lot more. It's not unhealthy, nor should it be abnormal for a dragon to go a day without eating. But I want to point out something on Jimmy's comment. There's someone here that commented back, and this comment was left by, is that Satari M. Says, year-old dragons are considered adults and should be eating fresh vegetables every day and bugs once or twice a week, dusted with calcium. Once again, this whole idea of dusting bugs with calcium is one, we don't do it. There's nothing wrong with doing it. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it's even wasteful. The best way to do that is to gut load your insects and then don't worry about sprinkling calcium on them. But Satari also replied to him and said, set appropriate feeding days for bugs and leave fresh veggies in their enclosure 24/7. Now, I don't think that's good advice for a couple reasons. Number one, when you leave vegetation in your bearded dragon's cage 24/7, one thing that you're going to introduce to that environment is added humidity. If you put in there, a freshly made salad, you've got it sprinkled out, you leave that in the cage 24 hours a day. First thing it's going to do is going to raise your humidity level. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to attract insects inside your home. And you guys probably...
And if you live in the South like we do, that's already
we're already trying to get insects out of our home. So, yeah, there's little gnats, a little pantry moss, and all these little things that you can introduce by leaving food in that cage 24/7. Don't necessarily think that's a great idea to do that. Also, too, if you're leaving something like, let's say, like greens or something in that cage for 24 hours, those heat lamps, by the time that dragon gets to eat that 24 hours later, it's no longer a vegetable, a leafy green. It's more like a crispy oak leaf or something like that. See, I don't really recommend doing that.
It's like buying fresh fruit or buying the bagged, like dried out fruit. It's just not the same. It's not as good.
No. I mean, imagine fixing a salad.
Yeah, and you let it sit out
and leave it out for till tomorrow at that same time. 24 hours later, you go back to eat that salad. That's
yeah,
that doesn't even sound.
And like I said too, like it kind of takes away from what happens in the wild, where they're not used to a dish in front of them where they have access to food all of the time.
Yeah.
So it's okay if they go a few hours. It's okay if they go a day or two without food. So
yeah, let them fast it out for a little while. It certainly ain't going to hurt them, and it is exactly that. It's natural. Let's drop down. Who is this next question from? This is
Drew Sharp Power.
Drew Sharp Power.
I think we actually answered a comment from them last week because I remember that name.
Yeah,
Drew Sharp Power.
So he's left a few. Anyway, well, let's see what he's got to say here. Or it could be a sheep. No, it's a Drew. It's got to be a dude. Wouldn't you think?
I don't know. Drew Barrymore, she's a woman.
Well, that's true. That's true.
We
don't know if you're a guy, gal. We don't know how you identify. But anyway, yeah, they say.
Thank you so much for the helpful information. Is there a such thing as too much UVB? I am still working my way through all of your videos.
Okay, is there such thing as too much UVB? Yes, there can be such a thing as too much UVB. And that there's some bulbs out there that have a high UVB output, and you can get those. You want to be careful that you're not putting too much UVB in a case, because yes, again, you can provide too much UVB. It can give problems, for their eyes or whatnot. You might want to check that. There are tools available that you can check it, but one of the things that is probably the single biggest drawback, in my opinion, to the tube style lights, because if you have this high output UVB light and it runs the entire length of the cage, the dragon has no way to get away from it. And so a lot of especially like your Facebook groups, where they'll say, oh, you absolutely can't use the compact fluorescent bulbs. Well, if you had too much UVB in that bulb, it's isolated to a particular area of your enclosure, therefore your dragon could get away from it. If you have the tube style light and there's too much UVB, it runs the entire length of the cage. It'd be like having a heat lamp over the entire enclosure. Your dragon doesn't have the option to get away from it. So, while we're not trying to get people not to use the tube styles, that is one disadvantage to it if you have too high of an UVB output. Now, I'm going to read this because I see this comment again. This is again from the same person, the Satari M. Also left a reply back to this guy and said, there is such a thing as the lamp being too close but not too much. Reptiles know how much UVB they need and will self-regulate themselves. Well, that's true to a sense if they have the ability to. But again, like you said, if you have that high UVB in a tube style light going all the way across the enclosure, they don't have the ability to get away from that UVB. So, just something to check, make sure that you're not providing too much of it for your dragon. Again, the best thing is natural sunlight.
Yeah.
Natural sunlight. We take our dragons out, let them get natural. We don't even use UVB lights in the summertime because we expose our dragons to so much natural sunlight.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like during the summertime, we don't even use the UVB lights just because they get outside so often. I mean, even if you're just cleaning your dragon's cage and you want to take them out of their cage, put them in a little separate box while you're cleaning, you can even just set them outside for 2 to 3 minutes. It's more than nothing. So.
And they have a built-in mechanism to let you know when they've been out there long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll let you know. They gape. Yeah, they'll sit with their mouth open. They'll gape. And that kind of lets you know, all right, this dragon is ready to come back in. And so anyway, it's not harmful to them. It's something that many reptiles do to regulate body temperature. They gape. It is thought that they are releasing heat from their body through their mouth. And alligators also do this same thing as well. So anyway, so Drew, we hope that answers your question, my friend.
Oh, we have 2 by Drew Shark Power.
We got 2. All right, Drew, you're No, I'm teasing.
He said, did Philbilly just go grab quick grits? Blasphemy.
This was on our video, Snake Eggs for Breakfast. We did a little comedy skit. Every now we do a lot of educational videos, but every now and then we just want to cut loose.
Do some comedy.
Have fun, do some comedy. And we did this video called Snake Eggs for Breakfast, and it was basically just a little comedy skit where Philbilly was fixing breakfast for the crew, and we were out of eggs. So he improvised by getting some snake eggs. Anyway, in this video, Philbilly's fixing breakfast, and he said, did Philbilly just grab quick grits? Blasphemy. Well, let me tell you this, Drew. Philbilly wouldn't know which grits to grab if he were in a pantry. That's one of those things that, you know what, Philbilly does a lot of meat grilling, not a whole lot of grit fixing.
Yeah.
So, you know what, I agree, though. That's like going to a hotel. They got them little packets of instant grits. That is blasphemy.
I feel like grits anywhere are just not good. Like they have to be homemade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We got people watching this video right now, and they're saying to themselves, what's a grit?
Well, I'm pretty sure, okay, so like my soon-to-be brother-in-law lives in Illinois, and I'm pretty sure he said that like his family, they fix their grits differently. They'll put like cinnamon and like make them sweet.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something.
Down here in the South, it's like cheesy, salty, like...
I've been out west. They don't know what grits are.
Yeah, that's true.
They have no idea.
What?
They don't know what sweet tea out there is either.
Porridge.
Some people just wasn't raised right. Anyway, so maybe he did. I don't know. Like I said, if he did, you guys give him a pass. He don't know what he's doing. And then the guy said, snake eggs, murderous. Quail eggs are more tasty. Yeah, but we didn't have no quail on hand. So Philbilly's got to do what Philbilly had to do.
We have chickens and we have ducks, but we don't have any quail. So.
No quail. He said, my side hurts from enjoyment. Thank you for the humor, education, and the selfless sharing of your experience and family life. Well, Drew, I will tell you one thing. Our family life really doesn't include eating snake eggs for
I promise you.
for breakfast. But anyway, once again, brother, see, I'm just assuming that this is a guy. How wrong of me.
We're happy to hear that you like the humor in our videos, the comedy skits. We're hoping to to post another one very soon. We're working on one. We're in the process of making another one, so they're a lot of fun.
I'm going to scroll down here because I think we got one more that I was looking at earlier. Now, actually, this one right here, this comment right here did not come to us via YouTube. This one came to us via Facebook, but I decided we want to talk about this just a little bit because I don't feel like this is anything we've ever talked about. Don't even think we've ever had this as a question before, but I'm very surprised. I'm surprised someone hasn't already asked this. Joseph Kraus? Is it Kraus? We'll call him Kraus.
Yeah. You're Kraus today.
Because we don't know how to pronounce names.
He said, question, I was feeding him and my other giant mealworms. Are they okay to feed them? Plus, I feed them crickets also.
Okay, he's talking about his bearded dragon here. Yeah, he says, I was feeding him and my other giant mealworms. Are they okay to feed them? Plus, I feed them crickets also. Okay, Joseph, I'm going to tell you this thing. First of all, I'm going to give you just a small piece of advice if you'll follow this for me. The next time you decide to feed your dragon something, you need to ask this question first. You don't feed your bearded dragon something, brother, and then go, hey, by the way, I was just feeding it. That's like, hey, I was feeding my dog some gunpowder. Is that okay?
Yeah, or like putting your hand on the stove, being like, hey, is this hot?
Yeah. So we're just cutting up, having some fun with you, Joseph. But really, though, it's a good idea to know if it's okay. There are some things out there, It's like someone would say, hey, man, I caught a bunch of, here in the South, we call them lightning bugs. Or when I was a little boy, we called them fireflies. Somebody say, hey, I caught a bunch of fireflies. I fed them to my dragon. Something went wrong. Mm-hmm. Imagine that. Those things are toxic, by the way.
I actually didn't even know that. I've never seen that before because I've never thought to catch them and feed them to a dragon. But didn't you say they'll make a dragon turn jet black? I
mean, they will listen. Years ago, before we knew better, because 25 years ago we didn't know as much as we know now. I kept bearded dragons outside, and one of my dragons ate one of those fireflies or lightning bugs or whatever you want to call them. The next day I found him, literally his body was jet black. It was like necrosis had set in. I'd never seen an animal deteriorate that fast. And upon a necropsy we found out that this chemical that lights up these bugs is also highly toxic to these dragons. And so we learn if you keep them outside in the South, you got to have a screen. It can't be like the hardware cloth because those bugs can fly right through. So anyway, that being said, let's get back to your question on giant mealworms.
Hey, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, this is something. See, that's the benefit to being old school. We know just a thing or two from experience.
Yeah, some people had to learn because that's how,
That's right. Some things we have to learn. We had to learn the hard way.
They had to learn the hard way of what we read on the internet.
Yeah, we didn't have the internet back then.
Someone had to actually experiment with it back then.
Well, we went to a book. We used to have these books. They were amazing things. And you never heard of one. They're called encyclopedias.
I love books.
And that's how we looked up, how hot you keep a bearded dragon. We had to go look up Australia and find out, things about where these animals come from. But anyway, back to this guy's question. I was feeding him my other giant mealworms. Now, I'm going to say this to you real quick. That is the one insect we've never covered on this channel. We have a video where we show a lot of different insects. We talk about like the protein, the phosphorus, the calcium ratios, the water and moisture content of various insects. We don't talk about giant mealworms, and there's a reason for that. I personally do not think that I would risk feeding my bearded dragon giant mealworms. And the reason for that is this. The process of creating a giant mealworm. Now, once again, this is different than a superworm. Superworms and giant mealworms are not the same. Superworms are fine. They're okay to feed. Giant mealworms are a mealworm that has been treated with a chemical. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is a chemical that you actually have to go get some kind of toxic certification to even purchase. You can't even purchase this stuff unless you've got like an exterminator's permit or something. But they mix this in with the food, and it allows the mealworm to continue growing without pupating into a beetle. Now, anything that you got to have a special license to purchase, probably not something you want to be feeding to your dragon. They claim that it's safe for human consumption, but who wants to eat something that exterminator's got to be certified to?
Yeah, you have so many other options. At that point, I would just feed your bearded dragons either regular mealworms or superworms. There's really no need to go in the middle for the giant mealworms.
That's kind of like eating fast food.
True.
It might be convenient, but it ain't good.
It's not good. It doesn't leave you feeling good 9 times out of 10, unless it's Chick-fil-A.
Unless it's Chick-fil-A.
That's God's chicken right there.
God's chicken.
But now, we also talk about the importance of gut loading your insects, especially for bearded dragons. They're not supposed to eat a lot of citrus fruits, but you can give oranges or watermelon, stuff like that, to the insects themselves. That way the dragons are still, in a way, getting some vitamin C through the gut loading process. But the gut loading process for a giant mealworm is just not natural.
Yeah,
so.
it's a chemical that I would stay away from. Now, one thing I've noticed is that not many of the insect breeding sellers are actually warning. In other words, they'll have on their website, like, we've got mealworms, we've got superworms, we've got crickets, we've got giant mealworms, but there's no warning on there that says, hey, you probably don't want to feed this to your lizard. And except one, and I wish I knew this name, but there was one person who actually sells this, and I don't know the name of his company, but I saw this last night. I was actually looking up some of this stuff last night, and he does have a disclaimer on his website, and he said giant mealworms should be used as fish bait only. They should not be used to feed your reptiles. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Interesting.
That he was willing to maybe even lose some sales to caution people. Probably not a good idea. You want to use that. So Joseph, my advice to you is no giant mealworms, no lightning bugs.
Yeah.
So, guys, listen, we're going to wrap it up. I don't want to make this thing too long. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us on Sunday afternoon. I do want to ask our audience a question real quick. Do you guys like these types of videos? I mean, are you getting something from them, or do you like the videos we used to do where everything was one subject, one topic? There's a lot of information in one video, but we feel like it gives us a way to interact with you, our audience. And so you guys leave us a comment down below. If you think it sucks, tell us. If you like these videos, tell us that as well. All right? Yep. You got anything?
Well, if you want your question featured in next week's video, so comment something down below. And yeah, you got anything?
I'm ready to go eat. Y'all have a good one. We finna go eat.